Over to you, Rashankar.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thank you for joining today's software session on Indefend by Data Resolve. This is a very interesting solution. And this is a comprehensive solution for workforce productivity, data leakage prevention, insider threat analysis, and to give you a better analytic view of your employees' productivity. This solution gives you a great outlook on the productivity of your employees. Workforce productivity is relevant now more than ever with the ever-changing hybrid workforce situation in the country. So as everyone's aware, a lot of people are working from home and in office. And this gives you a better granular visibility as to how your workforce is productive and what they do during the work hours. And also to make sure that your sensitive data is also protected. So when it comes to workforce productivity, you can set rules as to what makes your employees productive, the applications, the websites, and a variety of other tasks that they do. You can set those rules and set the rules as to what makes them productive and unproductive. And you can get a better visibility as to what they do during the work hours. And also you can get a real-time analysis on what they do. And also on an HR perspective, you can have a outlook as to the login logout times, the idle times, and a variety of other very interesting features when it comes to employee productivity. Because with this situation, it's better to have a good understanding and motivate your employees through this process, because some may feel burnt out, some may feel unmotivated, not motivated. So you can help them be at the best level when by monitoring their productivity and keeping them at their toes and trying to get the maximum out of the situation at the moment. So this solution helps, and also it is a great full-fledged DLP as well. So today we have joined in with us today Lakshan Das, the director of EMEA Data Resolve, and he will take you through the solution and give you an in-depth session. Yeah, I would like to introduce Lakshan, and feel free to ask any questions you may have, and we would love to hear from you. Just let us know if you have any questions, and also we'll have a small a few questions at the end as well. So Lakshan, I would like to hand it over to you now.
Thanks, Rashankar, and good morning, everyone. So, Rashankar, thanks for the introduction. And like he said, we are here. Let me share my screen in the meanwhile. So we are here to discuss the platform Indefend today. So Indefend is, not just from a cybersecurity point of view, Indefend is a very useful tool to manage an overall operational risk and process and human resource efficiency, because we have multiple tools, and it's built to be much more towards identifying actual operational risks of an organization, and then find ways to mitigate, to minimize that risk, and so on and so forth. So at the core of the platform is the data loss prevention solution. Obviously, this is a risk management side of the platform. And then on top of that, it's a full-fledged insider threat management. So how our insider threat management platform differs from an ordinary other cybersecurity related insider threat management platform is that we give a more or less a very hardy try, just not to identify data loss, but also to identify things like fraud potential of employees, productivity losses, IT asset misuse, operational losses, and inappropriate employee behavior. So this is more of a very comprehensive insider threat management platform when it comes to operational risk. So we call these two modules to be risk management modules of the platform. So then we have two more modules that are more towards the business intelligence side of the platform. So one is user and entity behavior analytics. So, and the second is for employee productivity monitoring. So employee productivity monitoring is just one part of the aspect. I mean, if you want to kind of just keep a, like, eye on your employees to see whether they're productive or not, and, how they're spending their workaday, and so what sort of behavior that is coming out of it. So that would be effective and useful. And user and entity behavior analytics, on the other hand, is more geared towards identifying process and human resource efficiency, like, to understand at a department level or an entity level, to see how your users are behaving, and to understand a kind of a broad and a holistic perspective of the time distribution of how they get their tasks done. So this part, we have certain organizations using it very successfully towards achieving process efficiency, to figure out the best practices, and why, especially in parameterized job roles, it really works. And they kind of try to figure out why do some employees who perform better, how do they spend their time during the day, and they try to analyze that time distribution to other users, how they work, and try to identify and benchmark best practices, and take it from there. So moving on. So let's get to that. So first, we start the conversation first along the lines of data leak and insider threats. And it's a known fact that like, as much as organizations these days are vulnerable to attacks and intrusions, but it's a known fact that 70% of the data leaks happen from within the organization. And some of it is like more or less well crafted or orchestrated. Some of it is like a little bit less glib, and they would just like, somebody calls them a friend or a relative, so they just give out the information without really understanding the depth of their actions. And as we are all aware that data protection law in Sri Lanka, I believe it was passed through the cabinet a few months ago. So I know the country is in a little bit of a turmoil right now, but at some point, I'm pretty sure they would start auditing for that, and all the organizations would be more or less mandated to have a data leak prevention solution. And also, to give you another perspective, like I work out of the Dubai office of Data Resolve, and I work out of Dubai. So we handle about 30 different countries throughout Europe, Middle East, Africa, and certain parts of Asia. So I think when it comes to DLP as a cybersecurity, like a benchmark, I think Sri Lanka is at least 3-4 years behind most of the other countries that we work. But I'm sure it will catch up, and at some point, like, it will be a more of a focal point, and there'll be a little bit more emphasis on that in the coming months or so. So to identify a scope of a data loss prevention or a data leak prevention tool. So first of all, it's important to understand what type of data are we trying to protect. So mostly the data that we are trying to protect will fall into two major categories. So one is the intellectual property of a company, like, this could be their products, designs, financial information, supplier details, customer details. So these would be their intellectual property that they are trying to protect. And this is, of course, by law, is not mandatory to protect. This is optional, because this information, we assume that it belongs to the customer. it's their intellectual property, and it's something that they have acquired, and it is up to them whether they want to protect it or not. So the second part of the information that customers would have would be customer PIIs, personally identifiable information. So this would be information like, let's say if you're a bank, like I come to your bank, I open an account. So I give you my ID card details, address, phone number, everything. Now these details of mine, they belong to me. Now I have given it to the bank with consent to be processed for a particular purpose, which is purpose of opening a bank account. So this information is governed by law to be protected, because this information does not belong to the entity. So all the data protection laws, the GDPRs and like equivalent that is passed all over the world centers around this part of the data that belongs to the customer, which is temporarily or permanently held with an organization, but that data the company is liable to protect. So of course that data is in the core system, they are bound to protect this data. And so broadly, these are the two types of data in an organization which they would want to protect, or they are mandated to protect. And so these two types of data, you would find it in three different ways in general. So one is data in use. So the second is data in motion, and third is data at rest. So a DLP would typically, DLP again mandatorily has to kick in for any data in motion. So this is compulsorily a task of any DLP. The data in motion has to be governed by a DLP. And in any kind of a cybersecurity ecosystem or architecture, data in motion has to be governed by a DLP and filtered by a DLP, and the priority of that has always to be given to a DLP. Now, data in use, on the other hand, some parts of a DLP would touch upon that. But mostly data in use is more or less the purview of a data classification tool, because it's generally a data classification tool that you would deploy to kind of classify things and identify things along the way while the data is being created and generated. So then comes the third part, data at rest. So data at rest is more or less governed by both the data classification as well as a DLP tool, but again as a additional component. So data discovery is, I think most modern day DLPs carry a component that could identify data at rest, and most of the data classification tools also carry that as well. So that is for the data in use. So, and I think before we get into a kind of a product demo, we'll just try to understand a little bit about the product. So Indefend, like any other DLP, is a server client architecture. So there has to be an endpoint client that gets installed in all the computers. And I understand that there was a time when network DLPs were a thing, but little by little, they are getting a little bit phased out right now, because most platforms now use some sort of encryption, either end-to-end or in a different type. So sitting in the network, it's nowadays more or less, it's difficult to identify content inside network traffic that is passing. So this content, for to be able to identify content inside a file that is getting emailed or that is getting uploaded, it is more or less mandatory for the DLP to be sitting at the endpoint, so that DLP could intercept it prior to the data being encrypted. So And getting back more along the lines of topology of things, Indefend could be deployed either on-prem or on cloud. So both options are available. So if in some instances, I mean not some, in most instances, people would prefer to deploy it on-prem and publish it on a public IP. So the physical hardware remains inside the organization, but it would be hosted on a public IP to facilitate those users who are working from home. Now, obviously, it's not a mandatory requirement. Indefend is perfectly capable of working offline, and whatever last synchronized block policies, even if a particular device is offline, would continue to be applied on the device even while offline. And all the activity logs of that particular device would be sent back to the Indefend server once the agent server communication is established. So this is more or less a mode of operation for Indefend. Now we take a kind of an approach wherein which we prioritize the endpoint being very light. So there is two ways in which Indefend goes about it. So whatever block policies you for to identify what is an incident alert, what is the productivity of the user, where did he spend his time on, to accumulation and filtering and churning of that data happens at the server level. Even OCR happens at the server level. Now, any block policies you set, like whether to block an email, whether to block a file upload, whether to block a print or a USB drive transfer. So those block policies will get processed at the endpoint. So the idea is less things you block, your endpoint would get lighter. And of course, it depends on the organizational requirement. And like I said, so if you want to kind of block USB completely, your endpoint would have lesser amount of processing, because will carte blanche just block the USB. But on the other hand, if you want the platform to kind of filter content and block USB based on content, like if a national ID card number was found or a phone number was found, if you want us to block copying data into a USB drive or a print based on that, then of course it requires a little bit of more processing power. All in all, we are very lean, and because we work in more or less in developing parts of the world, so we come across a lot of outdated infrastructure and architecture. So we have built the platform to be very light in that aspect. So that is one thing. So more or less compared to most of the other products in the market, you would find us to have a very lean and a very thin resource footprint. So I think let's just try to have an understanding of the product module by module. So we'll just go through a bit of a demo of the product. So, and everybody, please feel free to keep on asking any questions that you may have along the way. And Rashenka, I'm not sure whether I would see if anybody were to raise their hand, so were to raise a question. Just speak up if you see it at your end, please.
Sure, I'll keep you posted.
Sure. So this is what the platform looks like. So and to start off with the data loss prevention side of things, like any DLP, the first things first is to identify sensitive content. So we identify sensitive content based on three different flavors. So one is based on keyword and phrase management. The other one is based on pattern management. The third one is based on file type and attribute management. So keyword and phrase management is more or less to identify like this is an entire list of currency codes in the world. So this is more or less, you can, there are multiple ways in which organizations can use this feature. So one is to kind of upload a particular form or a particular document and run this on a percentage mode, where in which you say, okay, I uploaded a document. If you find another document matching 80% to the document I uploaded, you consider that it's the same document and you trigger it. So of course, once triggered, it could be just an incident alert in some cases. So in some cases, you can configure it to block something, or in some cases, you can just ignore. So all three options are available. So this is how you will use that. And there are multiple ways that you could not only use this to identify data loss. We have clients who are using this in very I mean, we have templates which we give to clients based on their requirements. So we have one template that has a set of words like career, jobs, vacancies, and a set of words that could be used if people are, Google searching for jobs or sending their CVs, or like messing with their CVs during work hours and stuff like that. We have other templates where we have a set of keywords like grade, home, schoolwork, and all these things that gets triggered if somebody is printing their children's homework or something like that in office. We also have templates to identify anything and everything from suicidal tendency to extremist behavior. So this can all be leveraged. I mean, we have certain templates based on the requirement of the company. We'll transfer those templates to the organization. So once these templates are created, you have to understand you can apply these templates across multitudes of channels. You can apply this to check what they're emailing. You can what they're uploading anywhere, what they're printing, what they're searching on any search engine, inside any files that are like data at rest, or even inside any files just with that they just open and close. So you can apply these triggers across all those channels. So second layer of data identification we do is at a pattern recognition level. So anything with a pattern like a passport number, credit card, debit card, ID number, vehicle number plate. So anything with a pattern could be identified through pattern recognition parameters, and then any and all data pertaining to that particular pattern could be picked up for data in motion. Obviously, we have some other features like to trigger it if only one passport number is found or more than 5 passport numbers are found. And also we have the masking capability. So the idea of masking is that while we may block somebody from emailing a credit card or a debit card number, and we figure out that it's a debit card, credit card number, you might not want your line managers and IT administrators to see the entire 16 digits of the credit card either. So in which case you can figure out which part of it is sensitive, whether it's right to left or left to right, and you can figure out how much you want to mask, so that although we capture that incident, we will report it, but that reporting would have certain parts of that pattern masked out, so that your data is, I mean, it's another layer to protect your data. So third type of the sensitive data identification we do is at a file type and attribute level. So some organizations can use this to leverage, you can just do a data at rest search, or you can do a file access search on to see who is wasting organizations' time downloading movies and songs, or watching movies and listening to songs. So you can maybe use it for that purpose, or else you can use it for certain purposes, like a PDF could be password protected or not password protected. So you might want to kind of, you might have a use case wherein which you say, you know what, all the sensitive documents in the organization are password protected. So I want to create a rule wherein which I say any file that is password protected, nobody would be able to email or print or, do anything with that file. So you can also use this file attribute module to kind of make those kind of rules, so that certain types of document irrespective of the content, just because of the attribute of the file. You can create a rule either to create an incident alert or to create a block policy. So that takes care of the content identification part of the platform. So now we move on to how your data could leak in an organization. So the first way how your data could leak is through devices. Now devices cover USBs, CD DVDs, mobile devices, Bluetooth devices, network, as well as local printers. Now these are some ways in which your data could go out. So obviously the platform, you can use the platform to put these in put the USB drives in read-only mode or full allow mode or block mode. So this is more or less a flipping the switch approach. And one more thing to remember is that while you may have existing tools like firewalls and some other things that are capable of performing this function already, so there are multiple ways that a DLP could do it in a much more granular and a refined way. First is that we are an endpoint agent. So that means whether the computer is in your network or outside the network, whatever policies you enforce will remain to be intact. That is number one. And then number two is that we can block things based on content. Like you could, for an instance, say, you know what, let them use the USB drives, but if they try to copy an Emirates ID or a Dubai passport, I will block them from copying this information into that USB drive. So that is the second advantage we offer, because we can control this at a content level, because every file that gets transferred will read the content. And if we find any sensitive data inside that content, we will prevent that particular file from being copied. Third part, which is perhaps the most important part, we have certain clients who are using us just for this feature, is we have enforced and restricted enforced encryption modules. So what happens in this mode is that you will allow users to use the USB drives. So it's okay, let them copy whatever they want. But what we do is whatever data they copy into the USB drive, we encrypt it on the fly. So what this means is that whatever data they copy into the USB drive could only be legible, or that can only be accessible through another computer in the same organization where Indefend is running. So if you misplace this USB drive, or if somebody were to take it home and plug it into their personal computer, that data would not be accessible or legible. So they would not be able to use that data. So this is one of the better features we have, and some organizations use us just for this feature. So because there's practical application to it for them. And in extension of this particular method, you can also register devices either at a organization level or at a department level. So you could have a particular set of USB drives that could only work for HR department computers. You could have a particular set of USB drives that could only work for IT departments of the organization, or you could have some USB drives that could work throughout the entire organization, but they'll not work outside of the organization. So registering of USB device is also possible in extension of that. So moving on to emails. So I think we are a little bit short on time, so I'm gonna rush through it, the rest of it a little bit faster. So again, we have two modes of emails. So one is we can intercept anything, any emails at endpoint. I mean, you can apply this template to endpoint. So wherein we are, if you're using a email client like Thunderbird or Outlook, we are compatible, agnostic of your service provider. But if you're using webmail, we are compatible with I mean, Office 365, Outlook, Google, and Zimra. So you can set policies based on domains. Like, you can whitelist or blacklist domains, sender domains. You can whitelist and blacklist recipient domains or email addresses as well, and say that some people should not send emails to outside at all. and say some people can only send emails to particular set of email addresses outside, or they cannot send emails to particular set of emails outside. So based on recipient domain or email addresses also, you can create these rules. So second layer is you can create rules based on file types. Like, you might say, I don't want PDF to be emailed anywhere, or I don't want AutoCAD drawing to be emailed anywhere. So based on the file type also, you can create this. And the most granular version of control is you can again control this based on the content, wherein which you will say it's okay for them to email, but if I find a Dubai passport number or an Emirates ID inside one of these emails, I will block those emails from going. File upload template is very similar. And again, you can whitelist or blacklist domains where you want people to upload things to, or where you don't want people to upload things to. Again, you can block things based on file types as well. And again, you have the same option, more granular one. You can block things based on the content inside the file that is getting uploaded. So this is your third layer of control. So what we do with application is very unique. So we have a shadow IT feature. So once you deploy Indefend in your organization, it will give you an inventory of all the applications that are running in all three of these operating systems, like Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it will tell you how many browsers are running in your organization, how many email applications are running in your organization. It will even tell you how many versions are running. Like Microsoft Outlook 2016, 0.8 is also running, 0.9 is also running. So what you can do with this module is something simpler. So you can whitelist the applications you want to run in the organization. So any application that you don't whitelist, if that application already exists in that endpoint, or if they were to install it later, that application would not be able to make a network connection. So we will block that application from making a network connection. So that is one niche feature you have. So this will stop all rogue applications, like if they were to download a torrent or a WhatsApp later on, or if it's already there, we will prevent them from using that application. Of course, bypass option is there. Bypass means we will not monitor application at all. So this you can do for your core platforms and stuff like that. So you can say, you know what, this is our own core platform. You don't need to monitor any traffic going in and out of these particular applications. So you can ignore that completely. So allow means we will allow and we will still monitor and we will apply block policies. Bypass means we will not monitor or block anything at all. You also have the ability to sandbox applications. So what will happen in a sandbox is that you can take a particular application and you can say, this particular application, I want it only to make network connections to these set of internal or public IPs or these set of URLs. So that particular application would not be able to make a network connection anywhere else. That application would be completely blocked from making any other network connection. And this module in extension, we also have web filtering, and you can use this to block URLs. So we have an existing set of categories where you can kind of pick and choose. You can make your own black and white lists as well. So you can use this to block URL. And like I said earlier, it's an endpoint platform. So if you block any URLs from our platform, it will remain blocked irrespective of whether they are working from office or working from home. So there is more fine granularity to our platform when it comes to applications. You can also specify a set of file extensions you want us to monitor. So any extension that is not mentioned here, we will not monitor. I mean, this is literally a list of all the file extensions. So you can say, you know what, you don't have to monitor all of these. You only monitor these set of files types for me. And you can also list down a set of applications you want us to monitor. So any application that is not mentioned in this list, we will not monitor them uh, even if they're accessing any of these file extensions. So, and we also have a data at rest scan capability. So what will happen is that you will tell the platform what type of data you're looking for. Like, whether you're looking for passport numbers, Emirates IDs, and you can run the data at rest scan. Depending on whether those endpoints are are depleted of resources or not, you can specify, like if you ask the platform to scan 25 megabytes or try to scan 25 megabytes every 10 seconds, you will have a very fast scan, but then again you will need an SSD and a kind of a modern architecture to do that. In the event that your architecture is a little depleted at the endpoint, you can kind of set it in a way, just try to scan 5 megabytes every 300 seconds. So that scan would be a little slower, but at the endpoint, they will not really feel the pinch. And you can enable a periodic scan. This would be on incremental stage. So once you run the initial scan, so the rest of the data at rest scan would happen at an incremental level, so that only the data that gets amended, edited, or any files that get changed, only those would be scanned. So going forward, that data at rest scan becomes more and more lighter, and it gives you this kind of what you call report, wherein which it will show you that these sort of details are lying in this particular file. This is the location of the file, and also what time it was last edited, and it will also show you which content identification rules got triggered in this data at rest scan. So moving forward, we have shadow logging capability. So you will see this in the reporting side of things. So shadow log is to retain a copy of the original file. So this could be an email attachment. This could be a file that gets getting uploaded to any website. This could be a file that is getting transferred to USB, or file that is getting printed, or a file that is getting accessed by application. So we can retain a carbon copy of that file. So from the console, you would be able to download and review a email attachment or a file upload or something that got copied to USB drive. So you would be able to download it and see, okay, what file did he email, or what file did he print it? So you can see a copy of that file. So shadow logging capabilities we have. And of course, you have to keep in mind that it's an on-prem deployment. So depending on how much you want to shadow log, you will have to allocate for that bandwidth as well as storage for that. So then we also have a screenshot policy. So screenshot policy runs in two flavors. So one is a periodic screenshot, wherein which we say, no matter what the user is doing, every 30 seconds or every 60 seconds or every 120 seconds, take a screenshot of his computer. Now, what we can do is we can override this with the event trigger screenshot. Now, your event could be something like WhatsApp application or WhatsApp web. So what we are essentially saying here is that under normal circumstances, take a screenshot every 120 seconds. But if WhatsApp application or WhatsApp web is open, take a screenshot every 15 seconds. The moment WhatsApp gets minimized or WhatsApp gets closed, it will go back to the original frequency of taking screenshots 120 seconds. But whenever WhatsApp is open, you will see screenshots every 15 seconds. So this gives you a kind of enough of a window to investigate later. So this covers the DLP part of the module, and it covers some sort of activity analytics as well. So before we move on to the next part of the module, let's try to kind of give you guys a holistic understanding of how we gather data. And so I'm going to select just one user, and we are going to generate a report for that user to see how we gather the data. So we capture every second, every activity of every user across these activity channels. So application activity, application file access, browser. So I'll just quickly take you through the list. Like this is application activity. As you can see here, we're capturing the computer name, we're capturing the username, we're capturing the application name. If the application were to make a network connection, we will capture that as well. Is there a question?
Lakshan, there is a question on the chat box.
Fausan, no, screen recording we don't do for the simple reason we have tried that approach. The problem with screen recording is you need to first capture that screen recording in a raw format like AVI, and then you need to kind of encode it to X264 or 265 formats to put it into kind of, to save the space and all. So this became heavy on the endpoints. So which is why we didn't pursue that channel. So screenshots, yes, recording we don't do, just simply for that reason that when we tried that, experimented it, I mean, 1.5, maybe 2 years ago. Then that process, I mean, you had to either push a heavy file to the server and encode it in the server, or you have to encode it at the endpoint itself and then push it to the server. Either way, that processing power that required to do that, we didn't feel that it justified the utility of the function. That we realized that 15-second screenshot, each screenshot is about 60 kilobytes. We encode that as well. So each screenshot is about 60 kilobytes. So we felt that that served the purpose a little more efficiently compared to trying to get a small video in a AVI format and try to encode it at the endpoint or in the server. Yes. So once I show you the raw data we gather, so then we will go to the incident alert format. So wherein which I can show you how you can create incidents, and so based on incidents you can get a notification. So actually, yes, you got the right idea. So how it works is that not for you to go through a multiple set of screenshots or what do you call recordings. It's for you to already know the incidents that happened and what time it happened, and for you to just look at the screenshot just as proof. So you got the right idea. So once we are done with this one, we will go back to we will go to that particular module. Done. Thanks, Fausan. So coming back to the activities we gather. So this is the raw level of data we gather. Now, this is where you can see whether the application is running in the background or foreground. We capture every second, every application movement inside that computer. Now, by the way, you can filter this in two different ways. So one is now I'm filtering it by the computer. So if you have an Active Directory enabled environment, you can also filter it by the user. So the difference is if I'm getting this report, now I'm pulling out a report for one particular computer. Now what will happen is that it will show me all the users who logged into this computer and what did they do. Now we do have a sync with Active Directory. So if you run that Active Directory sync, you would be able to filter it by the user based on the domain and that OU. So then you would be able to see one user's activity across multiple devices. So you have both those options. Just to clarify. So for the sake of simplicity, here we are just getting a device and we are trying to see all the users who logged into that device and what did they do. And same with browser activity. Every website they go to, we will capture that. And we will tell you the category of the website and also what time they went to that website. So this part is unique, application file access. So what happens in application file access is any file that gets accessed by an application, whether it's automated like OneDrive application or a torrent, or whether it's user driven, like Microsoft Word, like, I open and close a document in Microsoft Word. Both ways we pick it up, and we give you a log, and even this is shadow loggable, so you can get a full idea of what are the applications that are accessing what files they access. And like I said, in later on we'll be covering the productivity module as well, wherein this is where it gives the complete picture. Like I would not only be able to give you a picture wherein which I tell you, okay, this particular user spent 1.5 hours today on Microsoft Word, but that particular picture lacks context. Okay, 1.5 hours is spent on Microsoft Word. Can we assume that it was all productive? No, because we can tell you in 1.5 hours what were the 6 files he worked on. And we can also automatically trigger that out of these 6 files that he worked on for 1.5 hours, 2 of these files were his children's homework, which he also printed and misused the IT assets of the company. And out of the other 4 files, we can show that one of the files were his CV. The other 3 files remaining, out of which one file had sensitive information, which he emailed to a personal email address. So that is what makes us a holistic and a more of a very 360-degree operational risk and human resource management platform. Because most of the human resource management platform will just tell you he spent 1.5 on Microsoft Word. That's it. But we tell you what are the files he worked on, and then we inspect the content inside each of those files. And based on the keyword-based triggers, we can trigger if it's a homework file of somebody, if it's a useless file, or he was doing his college project, or whether he was messing with his CV. So all of that we can trigger based on the content identification we do in automated way, so that you don't have to go through these 5 files to see what were these 4-5 files. We will trigger it automatically. So that is the part we will cover next in the demonstration. So for the time being, I'm just showing you at a raw level how we gather the data. So then we also have another module called browser application activity. Now this is the time tracking tool of the product. Now, this is not looking at the background or foreground activity. This is just trying to time track what is the active window. If your computer is low, it will say local. If you're doing something, it will show you what you're doing. So this is the part of the platform that is calculating productivity for the user. So it is basically looking at what that user is doing at that particular moment, and calculating time for that particular aspect. So based on the application title and application name, now it is time tracking that his computer was locked or idle all this time. So this is how that module works. We also have a full comprehensive view of file uploads. We would be able to tell again the computer name, username, what was the file that was uploaded, what was the size of the file, where it was uploaded to, and this is your shadow log. You would be able to download and view a copy of this file, so that you would know exactly what did he upload here. You can investigate. So all the file uploads would also be captured, and it will be logged. Same goes for FTP related file uploads. So it will capture the product name, what file was uploaded, where it was uploaded to, and what was the exe. So we will capture all that. If any network file share were to happen, we will capture that as well and say that who did it, what was the remote IP, what was the destination, and activity time. So we will show you that what was shared to which network share drive. We capture entire print activity as well. Everything that they print, we will give you one by one. This is what was printed from which computer, what was the file name, what time. Entire print log also we will give you. Now comes to the part of emails. So emails also we will capture fully. We will give you a full log of who sent the email, to whom it was sent. If anybody were in CC, BCC field, you'll see it here. And what was in the body, the subject, the attachment, everything you will be able to see. And like I said, if there is an attachment, you will be able to download and view the attachment. So comprehensive view of that would also be there. Even if it is a draft, we will still capture it, and we will show you that this is the last saved draft. So he was sending an email from this to this, but it is a draft right now. It will say it's draft, yes, so that means it's a draft. So this prevents anybody from copying some sensitive data into a draft and then, like, picking up their phones and executing that draft from their phones. So even if it is a draft, we still pick it up. Even if it is from their personal email addresses, we still pick it up, provided they're from Gmail, Outlook, Zimbra, or one of those platforms we support. Excuse me. And additionally, to give you some information, we also capture search activity. So anything and everything they search, we will pick up and we will report it. So you will get a report like this, that these are the things that they search for. So this is where you will be able to see whether they are searching to see, like, which TV to buy or which mobile to buy, or whether they're looking to see where sees. And in some organizations, we have seen users sitting inside the organization Googling how to bypass a DLP. So that also you will see, depending on what type of employees you have in your organization. So entire search activity also we will track it. And then it's a matter of device activity as well. That also we will capture fully. And we will show you that, okay, this is the device that was plugged in. This is the user, this is the computer. This device of this particular serial number was plugged in, and one file was copied to that, and this is the file name. This is from where the file was copied, source of the file, and this is a copy of the file. So you can see what did they copy to the USB drive. So similarly, I mean, this is where you will see web upload activity. So web upload is actually your form filling. So anything and everything that gets, hold on, let's see it here. So these would be anything and everything where you fill a form, like, it could be an entry into a kind of a online form, or a comment in a chat box, or a, what you call, comment in a, like a YouTube video or a blog. Anything and everything would be captured under web upload. That also you would be able to see, but in generally we encrypt it because it can capture passwords. So we encrypt it and we only show it if it breaches a particular what you call a keyword or a pattern or any kind of a content filtering rule that was previously set. Other than that, we will encrypt it just to make sure that your IT administrators would not be able to see all the passwords and stuff. I think I have a question.
Yes, Lakshan from Fauzan.
Yes, Fauzan, yes. So yes, that is possible. So what you do is that you choose this option, cumulative report, and you choose the user, and then you set the date period, and you just click on generate report. So it will give you in an Excel format entire report of that user. So you would be able to see in a bit whether the report is generated or not. It will give you a report like this. Hold on. So this is the one that I just queued up. It is still getting generated. Yeah, here you go. So it will give you a report like this, where you would be able to see tab by tab, application activity, browser activity, file upload activity. So this is at a row level. Like, this is all the activity one by one. And there are filtered reports that you can take where, like, it will give you productivity summary and all these things. So that we will cover in the next one. But if you want at a row level, everything he did for a particular user, you can download that to view that. And I think I also have somebody in chat. Oh, that's different. Okay, done. Thanks, Fawzan. So that is also possible. Actually, I forgot to mention that. Good thing Fawzan asked the question. So then comes now that we know how we gather the data, now it's a matter of how we can set up incident rules around it. Like, when you have hundreds or thousands of employees who will do million activities a day, you cannot read through thousands of emails to see which one is data leak, which one was inappropriate behavior. So this is where you can create rules. So you can create incident rules for all the channels where we capture the data for. We will look at a couple of examples. Like for an instance, we take the SMTP example. So let's say I don't want to, again, now I'm saying I don't want to go through all the emails, but I am interested in emails that are going to external domains. But then I will say, you know what, I'm still getting hundreds of emails. I cannot read hundreds of emails every day. So you can narrow this a little more and say, you know what, trigger it only if it goes to an external domain and has an attachment. Now, if it goes to an external domain, no attachment, don't trigger it. Now you can narrow it down even further. Like, say something like, has the user used the BCC field? That then only I'm suspicious. So it has to go out, has to have an attachment, has to have the BCC field also, someone has to be there. Trigger it if all three of these conditions are matched. So this is how you can narrow down your search. The same way, like if you take look at for file upload activity, I can trigger it based on a set of whitelisted or blacklisted destination URLs, wherein I would say trigger it only if it is going to any set of these URLs. Or I can narrow it down further with things like file size. I can say trigger it only if it gets uploaded to these set of URLs and it is more than 25 megabyte or less than 5 megabytes. Or I can trigger it if it matches file extension also. So I can say trigger it only if it gets transferred to vTransfer, file size has to be more than 25 megabytes and file extension has to be PDF. Trigger it only if all these three conditions are met. So there are multiple ways in which you can set up these rules. I will tell you what are your trigger options in every kind of situation. Like if it's email, you can trigger it based on any of these triggers. If it is file upload, you can trigger it based on any of these triggers, based on the username, file extension, file name, destination URL, whether the file is password protected, whether the file extension is changed, a time interval, like how many files do they upload in how many span of time. So let's say something like printer activity. So you can again trigger it based on destination printer, gateway ID, file size, title, hostname, file format, whether the file is password protected, and then let's say search activity. So you can put a trigger for like search phases, like search phases like what do you call based on, like you can put something like vacancies, job, hiring, and all these things. So if anybody were to search for any of that, it will get triggered. Or if anybody were to search for any particular set of URLs, you can trigger it based on that. I have another question. Yes, Fawzan. We can on webmail we have APIs with Microsoft, which covers your Outlook web, Office 365, and we also have APIs with Zimbra and Google. So if they are using webmail on any Outlook email addresses like Office 365 or Gmail or any of the Gmail issued domains, or Zimbra, we can pick it up on web as well. Yes, and we do that through the API. So most of these organizations that are, which is why we cannot monitor Yahoo, because Yahoo does not give us an API, because Yahoo is not in the corporate space of things. So all the email providers that are in the corporate space, like I mean, Microsoft, Google, they give these APIs to DLP makers in the world so that they understand that it would be used in a DLP to monitor this data loss. But those who are not in the corporate space of things like Yahoo, who only issues uh, email addresses to personal users, they'll not give us any APIs because they'll know that we will misuse that. No, we do not work on mobiles. We only work on Windows, Linux, Macs, and on endpoint computers only, not for mobiles. So I hope that covers it. Okay. Yeah. So now coming back here, like it could be application activity, you can trigger it again based on application type, port it accesses. So this is how you create incident alerts. Now once you create these incident alerts, there are multiple ways. So let's say you created a violation, and what you do when you create a violation is that you also say, like, if this particular violation happens for me, it will impact my productivity, or I consider it IT misuse, or I consider it data theft potential. You can also assign a weightage to this incident. So this is how your scoring matrix and the scoreboard and everything will work. So you will define an incident and you say, this I consider an incident or a violation, and it will impact me on these particular areas, and it will impact me this much in every particular area. Like, you can say, if this particular activity happens, it will be a high productivity loss for me, a medium level data theft potential for me, and a medium or low level financial data loss for me. So this is how you will create these incidents. So once these incidents are created, and if a user violates these incidents, first of all, you'll get an alert on the dashboard, where of course you can click on the alert and you can investigate to see what happened. So it will tell you that he sent this email to this one, and it was triggered because of this particular content filtering rule, and it got triggered because of this particular set of keywords were found. The word job were found 14 times, payslip was found once, CV was found 3 times, resume was found once. So it got triggered because of these keywords, and it will show you the entire email as well, the body, the attachment, everything it will show you. So this is first layer of how you will get an alert when an incident happens. Second layer is you can configure email alerts. Now there are multiple ways you can consider email alert. One is you say, give me a real-time incident alert on if any of these things happen. So wherein if any of these breaches happen, like, if SMTP related breach happens, it will get triggered. Or USB related breach happens, it will send you an email alert. So this is your second layer of choice. Third layer is you can say, you know what, don't send me like alert every time. Send me a report every day at let's say 8 o'clock. Send me a report of a summary of the organization, what happened in the organization today. So in which case you will get a report like this. I will show you. So we call it a cyber intelligence report, and what will happen here is that you will get this kind of a report daily, wherein which it will show you a glimpse of the entire organization. Many organizations very successfully use this in ISO and some of the data protection related audits. So wherein it will show you the entire license count, how many agents were installed and uninstalled today, and how many computers are offline, what kind of policies are applied, what kind of incidents are happening, like, what kind of data classification rules are broken, like, how many computers have blocking switched off, what kind of incidents happen in the day, email incidents. So it says that how many emails were sent with sensitive content, what kind of sensitive content were there, and then file upload incidents. So like that, it will give you an entire summary of the day for the entire organization or the department, based on how you make your sub-admin account. So this is your other way of going about it. Third way is that there is an incident alert dashboard. So wherein you can see all the incidents that got triggered. Like, you can select a 1 day, 1 week, or 2 weeks, 1 month, or 3 month view. So it will show you all the violations. Like for an instance, now you want to know who uploaded files to unauthorized URLs. This is a rule you created. You specified what is an unauthorized URL for you. So anyone who uploaded any files to those unauthorized URLs, now we are giving you a report. Click on that, it will show you these are the 5 users who uploaded things to these unauthorized URLs. So you click on any of the user, it will give you, you'll be able to inspect it fully. One by one, it will show you it happened on these 3 days. So this is one incident. It will show you the user, will show you the computer, will tell you that this is the file that was uploaded to this particular website at this time. So maybe you want to see who sent Gmails to external domains. So 746 emails went to external domains. Now you want to see who sent it. You click on that, it will show you the set of users who did the activity, and you click on any of them to investigate. So it will show you that you can pick out any user, and it will show you this particular user sent an email to this particular Gmail account, which is an external domain to the company. And it will show you that but it didn't trigger any content filter rules. That means nothing sensitive was inside that email. Although it was triggered because it was sent to an external domain, but no sensitive keywords or patterns were found. So that means the email is probably okay. And it will show you what was in the subject or the text of that email. So, and like that, so all the incident rules you created will get triggered here. And then of course it makes your life easy to investigate, that you don't have to go and look at all the activities. You just come here and you just look at what are the things that are important to you and who is making those violations, and then you of course you can investigate to see whether their job role requires you to do that particular function, or someone is constantly violating rules because there is more potential for them to do fraud or to leak data or to misuse IT assets. So either way you can pick it up and you will see it here. So finally we move on to the productivity analytics module. So given that we already know every second everything what every user is doing, so we can put that into a kind of a productivity analytics module. So we can filter it by either department level or at an entity level, and we can first see a summary, like that is how any organization would approach it. At a department head or a CEO will look at and see what is the average active screen time for my organization for this particular period. So you realize it's very low, only 39 minutes average active screen time for all users. Idle time is this much, productive time is this much, unproductive time is this much. So productive and unproductive you will define at a user level or at a department level, that these things are productive for these users, and these things are unproductive for these users. So depending on what they actually do, we will calculate it according to that. So you can kind of browse a little lower and you will see every day how many people logged into work. So now you're looking at a department or an entity level view. So you realize, okay, like, people are at least logging in. So then you will get an idea of where the productive application, how much time they spent in the organization, unproductive applications, how much time people are spending, what are those unproductive applications. And same for website categories as well. What are the productive ones? How much time are we spending on it? Unproductive ones, how much time are we spending on it? Of course, you can click on any of them. You can investigate further, like, you might want to see who is spending time on Explorer. So you click on Explorer, it will show you these are the 4 users who are spending time on Explorer. This is how much time they spend on that. If you want to investigate a particular user, you can do that I mean, again, you can pick out a particular date range and you can say, okay, tell me a summary. Like, it will show you, okay, this month he came to work only 3 days. And this is his productive summary for those 3 days. He was average active screen time was 33 minutes, idle time was this, productive time was this, and it will give you a daily breakdown here. Every day, like what was the what you call active time, idle time, and it'll also give you login logout times as well. What time he came to work, what time he left, what was the total duration. Out of the total duration, how much was the active screen time, and it will also show you how much was the productive and unproductive time as well. You'll also be able to see application usage, what are the productive applications, how long he spent on that, what are the unproductive applications, how long he spent on that, web usage as well, what are the productive website categories, how much time he spent on that, unproductive website categories, how much time he spent on that. And like the activity reports, productivity reports are also downloadable in PDF and Excel formats. So if any department heads or HR departments want to make their own graphs and charts using our raw or filtered level of data, so that all those reports are available, they can do that as well. So I think we have 10 more minutes. I think Rashenka, let's see if we have any questions, any other questions or anything from anyone.
Yeah, anyone would like to ask any questions from Lakshan would be good now. Be okay to ask any questions now. If not, I also have put a link on the chat box that has a few questions on the Google form. You can fill those questions as well, and it will be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, if you would like to ask any questions, Fauzan, would you have any questions?
I think Fauzan, it's time for you to speak up.
So yeah, I'll get in touch with each and every customer who has joined in with us today, and it is greatly appreciated. So I'll give a call personally to each and everyone and see what the thoughts are on the solution and how we can help and take this forward. So if there aren't any other questions, I'd like to. There is one more question, Lakshan, from Fauzan.
Yeah, Fauzan.
It says early in the demonstration, I want to know whether we can remotely log in to the endpoints.
No, you can log in as in person. It needs a bit of clarity, like no, like RDP, no.
Okay, brilliant. I hope that answers Fauzan's question. And yes, please do feel free to answer the Google form questions that I've put up a few, and I will personally call each and every customer and see what the thoughts on the solution. And thank you so much for joining today's session. And I hope you all found it insightful. And thank you, Lakshan, for taking the time off today for coming on.
And if anyone wants like a one-on-one demo, they can let us know. So we could do a demo or a POC depending on their requirement.
Definitely. And I will get in touch with them and see if they can set them up a POC from the customers. So yes, thank you so much, Lakshan, and thank you for the customers for joining with us. Yes, thank you, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rashank and Ramita, for everyone in SAT for organizing, and everyone who attended. Thanks a lot, and hopefully we'll see more of them during POCs. So going forward.
Super. Thank you, Lakshan.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Lakshan. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks, Ramita. Thank you.